Dig Deep by After the Burial. This is an important album for this band. It's an important album for the fan base, and really, for this subsection of heavy metal, it's an important album because of the tragic death of Justin Lowe last year. Because of what happened, because of how it happened, and really the way in which it caused the entirety of the fan base, as well as outsiders, to really come together and to really maybe even at times, just for one day, become an After the Burial fan. It's sad whenever it's things like that that have to bring us together. But yet we have, really, not even a year after this tragedy, potential hope with this group. So Dig Deep is a 9-track affair that nearly spans 40 minutes of length, which makes it one of their longer albums. And this is a disc that you could easily tell somewhat just by a few of the song titles, some of the grief that is sort of being released through this record. And whenever you consider song titles such as Collapse, Lost in the Static, Sway of the Break, The Endless March, Heavy Lies the Ground, or even Laurentian Ghosts, even if it's not something where that's the direct influence or the direct lyrical inspiration, you know, the events of the past year, it's something that you could maybe feel kind of contributed a little bit. Musically speaking, this is an album that is able to take the realm of deathcore and metalcore, combine the two together, add some progression, which is kind of why this band oftentimes is labeled within the gent community. And it's an interesting way for it all to come together, because this is just me real talking for a moment. I have this sort of problem with some modern-aged, but perhaps fringe-line metal fans, or just rock fans in general, that will listen to something and then completely and totally disenfranchise another thing that really boasts similar chord progressions or similar patterns, but perhaps refuse it because of the patterns being done in a lower key, or there's a little bit more down tuning going on. Perhaps it's all being growled as opposed to there being a balance between growling and singing. You know what I'm talking about. You know who I'm talking about, the XD RAR police. Because there is a track, in fact it's Laurentian Ghosts, that reminds me a lot of a chord progression that you potentially hear on either a metalcore song or even a modern metal track from a group such as like a Five Finger Death Punch or something like that. Only it's done with a lot more of that down-tuned depth. There's a lot more in the way of that more suicide silence-like sound to the guitars. And the overall construction of this does paint a little bit of a more rage-fueled, real overall exterior and interior to this track. It's one that's painted with a little bit more of the brutal sense, as opposed to this being completely and totally awash to what is traditionally acceptable on the modern-day radio metal market. But really, whenever you listen to the progressions, they sound eerily similar. So, a bit of a double standard there, but double standards are everywhere. This is an album that in places is really able to make a lot of momentum, and is able to showcase the crushing ability of this band in a way, and really best in the way in which they are able to link these ideas together. They're able to link together these progressions, these chords, with at times some technical sweeping, while at other times they're able to do so with a little bit more of a breakdown philosophy. And this is something that actually is more present, the breakdown philosophy that is, near the ending of this record, and actually kind of ends this disc on a bit of a weaker note, all depending on really what you're a fan of. If you enjoy this band more for the breakdowns, then the second half of this album will probably be a little bit more catered to your tastes. But whenever you consider something that, or whenever you consider that the first real 2/3 of this album was really showing a little bit more of that progression, showing a little bit more of those desires to sweep or perhaps use the chords in order to guide some of these narratives together, to hear something that sort of bubbles things down a little bit more simply, kind of takes things on a little bit of a shorter winded path, it kind of throws off the balance a little bit. But overall, this is a disc that really gets to the point, and it's one that is also able to really expose the band's talents and showcase some of their talents, and do so in a crushing way. Do so in a way where After the Burial is really showing and backing up why they get a lot of praise, not only from their fan base, but from those who explore this group for the first time and seem to become latched aboard. They have a certain magnetism and a certain energy that certainly serves them extremely well. Songs such as Meyer really display this, considering it's a bona fide crusher. It's one where those that really love and really are the biggest of fans of that crushing blow, of that very, low-bridged and extremely brutal philosophy within this subsection of metal, will really clamor for this track, will love this track. But then again, those who also like a little bit more musicality will be able to find traces of that throughout other songs, especially near the middle portion of this disc, where we have two songs that are either in or around the 5-minute mark. Overall, this disc is not too bad. It's one that I think some people may overvalue because of what has happened, but it's an album that certainly is no slouch. It's about what I would consider to be a low B-, such as an 83 out of 100. For those of you who are questioning about the scoring system, even though it is a 0 to 100 range, think about it very much like whenever you were in school, and perhaps this is a very American school of thought, where an A album is one that's really within the 92 to 100 range, a B album is more 83 to 91, a C album is like a 75 to an 81, or an 82, numbers. Consider it like that, and you'll start to understand a little bit more where we're coming from. It still also means that perhaps a couple of albums that were legitimately kind of bad have been a bit overvalued to more of a C or a C- range, whenever perhaps they deserve more of a D or an F. But this is an album that's worthy of that B- rating. It has a lot of things that it does well. This band does a lot of things very well. But I think at times, they'll mix this sort of skews them a little bit closer to deathcore near the end of this disc, actually breaks that momentum so much that it kind of leaves you with a bit of a bad taste, as opposed to the first 6 or 7 tracks on this disc that really felt a little bit more like a mixed bag. I like that variety. That variety was strong. But I want to know what you guys think about Dig Deep by After the Burial. Is this a fitting album after all that has happened with this group? Is it really a triumphant return, or does it fall short in your mind? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys next time, whenever we talk about another album, probably from a band whose initials are OG. I don't mean Original Gangster. You know who I'm talking about. Post in the comments. Peace.